On today's Prairie Sportsman, Kevin Hinrichs of the Royal Dutchman Resort welcomes us aboard the Dutchman's warship to do battle with monster sturgeon on the Rainy River.
Yeah! You got a good one?
Then, we join researchers as they work to track the population of these unique prehistoric fish.
That's a fish.
Sure.
Welcome to Prairie Sportsman. I'm Bret Amundson. We got a great one for you this week, and it starts right now.
Funding for Prairie Sportsman is provided by the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources. By Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farm, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota. On the web at shalomhillfarm.org. And by the Friends of Prairie Sportsman. To become a friend of Prairie Sportsman, visit pioneer.org/Prairie Sportsman.
Lake of the Woods and the Rainy River, the walleye capital of the world. While Minnesota state fish gets most of the attention up here, there's one resort owner just east of Baudette who turns his focus away from Minnesota gold and has fallen in love with a different fishy treasure. Today we're fishing with the Dutchman himself, Kevin Hinrichs, and his friend, Nick Morgan. Kevin owns the Royal Dutchman Resort and is an absolute sturgeon fanatic.
It's time to get in the warship.
I like to call this the stairway of heaven, boys. We do provide a guided charter service. I am a U.S. Licensed Coast Guard captain. I am CPR certified and trained. I will do everything that I can while I'm out on the water to make sure that you have the best day possible while we're fishing. We also operate a ice fishing business that operates both on the lake and the river.
So, how far do you normally go when you take people out?
So a lot of times I'll tell them I hope you brought a lot of coffee with because we got a long ride ahead of us. And I usually have a slip that comes straight out like this. And we'll back out, I'll turn the stern upriver and drop anchor. I mean, it can be that simple. But usually on average, most trips, we do not go further than a 6 mile, 3 miles either way, and we are able to find what we're looking for as long as they're wanting to chomp. All that, right there, that's all, they're all over down there. I don't know how to zoom in on it like some people do. I'm not very high tech. This is the first depth finder that a warship's ever had on it.
Like how much activity do you wait for before you go over there and grab the rod?
I'm looking for a certain bite myself. Like the hardest thing for guests right away is they want to go after every bite.
Yeah.
Which we're not going to hook 90% of the bait stealers unless they swallow it or the hook gets in their mouth just right. So I'm going to sit here until I think it's confidently a decent sturge bite that's going on. Because people will tell you hook sets are free, which they are in some sense unless you're buying the bait because you're going to rip your bait off. And it can get to be that now, like you pick it up like that. You got slack in your line, you don't even know if he's biting anymore. They'll say, oh, he isn't biting. Then you put it back in. Now you got him. What do we got? Walleye or suckerfish? Look like walleye bite to me. Yeah. It's walleye. I get a family in here. We get out there. We get anchored up. We throw rods out. In the summertime, I'll put crawler harnesses on with 1 ounce weights, and we'll throw, if there's 6 of us in the boat, I'll throw 4 sturgeon rods out, and I'll throw 2 of those out. And I can tell you I've caught up to 13 different species of fish. Here we go. Woo!
Fish on.
You got a good one? You look like you might be twisting a bit or what? Tell him to go back to bottom. Get that one out of the way. Keep him right over there for a minute if you can. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. He must have hit him on the head with a weight or something. He ain't doing normal sturgeon things. I just got to get everything back and out of the way. I don't think this one's gonna run up alongside the boat. Oh, perfect. Yeah, untwisted.
Oh, there he went.
That Mad Cat's getting a workout right now. Old Nicky Poo. Dino, Dino, Dino. You know, this is only a half-hour show, so I just always like to. We're not gonna get premature with the net. I see a lot of guys get premature. They grab it right away, and it's like, you might as well put that thing back for a while, but we'll get the handle out anyways and get it ready. And again, as you can see, like I say, on the warship, we like to stay in the front of the boat and bring the fish, try to control it and direct it. You think he's ready? He's gonna come in angry then, I guess. That's a good one. Oh, he's gonna unspin here and probably take off again. You ready for me? Drag him over.
Nice.
There you go. Woo! Nothing better than that, is there? I mean, you're looking at 60+ pound fish, somewhere in that range. Usually that mid-20s girth, whatever length they are, is about how heavy they are. Once you start getting to that 29, 30-inch girth, you can start to stack on anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds extra.
It's very easy fishing. The amount of gear you need is inexpensive. It's a lot of fun, and you can literally catch the biggest fish of your life like that right there. It's a huge fish.
We're a mom and pop resort. We have 14 rooms that consist of 5 2-bedroom kitchenettes, or like 2-bedroom cabins or villas. And then we have 9 like hotel rooms. The Royal Dutchman Resort, I am not sure where it came from. I believe the Canaveys, the people who owned it for like 35 years, they were the ones who named it from H&M Motel to Royal Dutchman Resort, but I'm not 100% for certain on that. But it has carried on through many, many years. I was actually thinking about calling it like the Sturgeon Inn. Or, my name's Kevin. I was gonna name it the Kev Inn. My grandpa really liked that one, but I had never been on Facebook before I bought the resort. One of the first posts I did, I just happened to call myself the Dutchman. Dutchman here, dockside on the river. And it kind of has stuck from there. Everybody knows me as the Dutchman. And believe it or not so much my face, but my voice. I have people look at me for a really long time until I say something, and then they're like, holy crap, you're the Dutchman. Yeah. So the original building, when it was built in 1955, which that building is all 2-bedroom kitchenettes now. But the original building right there was 4 rooms with a carport. We're obviously not the oldest resort up here, but to be in that same era year class with like Adrian's Resort when they formed, and a few other ones that started up dating back to like that 50s era, the golden age, it's pretty cool that it's still standing and still being used to this day. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah! That away, Bret.
I got that drag set pretty tight, so I feel like loosening it.
There he is.
Don't feel ashamed.
That's a decent one.
Yeah.
Another.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. I love it.
No. Do. Oh.
Oh, he's not
So-
too happy with me.
The warship did do battle with the trailer, so it has a dented deflector up there, so we're just gonna try to keep it away from, it battles all kinds of things, Dan. How's that feel?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So strong. They're so much fun.
Right.
He's come up a couple of times and now just gone right back down. And I think
See
he's
them swirls back there.
I think he's getting pretty close here.
Okay. A little bit closer.
Ready, set?
That's perfect.
And that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
Oh! There you go, bud. There you go. Nice. Yeah. This is what the Rainy River is really becoming known for. I mean, obviously it's still a great walleye fishery and smallmouth pike. There's a lot of species of fish that you can catch in here. But the sturgeon
Nice walleye there.
that are in this river are amazing. It's so much fun and so easy to do.
I'll put it like this, when the tug is your drug, the sturgeon is the ultimate fix at the end of the day. Not to say that I don't love my walleyes. It's just if you're gonna make me choose between one, it's gonna be the sturgeon. I knew I was gonna live up here someday. I just didn't know when or how. Just the overall size of the lake, I guess, when I saw it the first time, it puts you into perspective and makes you realize how small we are as human beings. As a business owner, you always look, how can I utilize every aspect of my business to possibly make as much money as you can? And that community room can be looked at as, sometimes in some people's eyes, as a wasted opportunity. Now, can we turn this into a room? Until you see a group of guys, or say a dad with his kids on an ice fishing trip, they come in and they put the casserole that mom prepared for them at home that they brought up with them. He stuffs it in the oven and you're sitting in there, they're having a good old time, eating and hanging out and chilling, talking about how the day was. And when he talks to you, he says, you know, I truly appreciate that you guys got this community room here, because trying to feed 4 kids, going out to eat, plus going on a fishing trip, this just wouldn't be doable at all. My dedicated, devoted mission is to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to experience Lake of the Woods the way that I did. We do not charge for kids to stay or fish, because I do not want money to be the reason that they don't get the opportunity to experience Lake of the Woods, and I mean, in fishing in general.
Yeah! There we go.
Oh. No.
Yes.
No. Come on, Dan. Figure out which way's down. There you go.
There he goes.
Nope.
Keeps trying to go up.
You could get off that pack, you'd probably
Right.
take off, but you just can't. All right, bring him over here.
All right.
Yeah!
Nice. What a fish. How cool is it we get to have these in Minnesota? I mean, it's an absolute dinosaur, just a beast of a fish, strong, man at the world, easy to fish for, so much fun.
I guess I look at a sturgeon fisherman as like a boxer. He's looking for that opponent that he can't beat, that one that you're scared of, you know, and it's out here. It's waiting for us. I'm gonna find it.
Well, we're just down from Willie the Walleye here in Baudette at the DNR area headquarters, and behind us is the Rainy River. Now, this has become just a world-class lake sturgeon fishery, and that's due to a couple of things: the cleanup that took place here, the recovery efforts, including the Clean Waters Act back in the 1970s, and then a lot of research that's being done by the Minnesota DNR. So while this is a popular area to target sturgeon in the spring, we're here in August. We're gonna head out on the river with the DNR to go check these nets for sturgeon.
We went out yesterday, set different gill nets out on the river as part of our juvenile sturgeon and just general Rainy River survey. Ideally, we're looking for kind of that juvenile stage sturgeon. So we have 2 different sites to check today with 3 different nets at each site.
Now, part of this process will involve some bycatch, catching walleyes, suckers, sauger, and other fish in those nets. But those fish are becoming a vital part of their research as well. So we're out here on the river at your nets that you set out yesterday.
Yep.
What's the next step here?
So we're gonna lift these nets. We're starting on the downstream side. So we have 3 different nets in the water. We're gonna start with our 2.5-inch mesh. So it's about 100 feet long, and this one's set perpendicular to the shoreline. Then the next one's what we call an experimental gill net. So there's 250 feet long of net, all strung together, and there's 5 different panels of mesh in that gill net that range from 3/4 inch all the way up to 2-inch mesh. So it's gonna catch a variety of different fish. We're doing kind of 2 surveys in one today. So we're doing a population assessment on the Rainy River itself. So we're looking at walleye and sauger numbers, sizes, ages, as well as juvenile sturgeon. So these nets are really good at catching smaller sturgeon. We'll tag them from here and take length and weights on them. As they get tangled in the net, sometimes the net rubs on them a little bit, and they get kind of like a rug burn. But they have really hard skin, kind of like a leathery type of skin, and some rough scales, so they're typically not an issue for them. Yeah, so this is a juvenile sturgeon. So you can see a lot of times they're kind of this lighter sandy color compared to the adults, are more darker. And you can see the scoots on its side here on the top are really sharp. When they're younger, they're, I guess, fresher scales, so they still have that sharp feel to them, so we like wearing gloves when we're handling them. And then as they get older and kind of rub up against different stuff in the river and just live their life, they kind of start wearing those scoots down.
All right. Lake sturgeon, 2.5 inch. 633.
So each one of these sturgeon that we get, we wand them with it's called a pit tag reader. So we have pit tags in a lot of these smaller fish. It's basically like the same type of microchip you'd see like in a dog that you get from a vet. It just has a unique number that identifies that fish. And we use these on our smaller fish because they're really small. They're kind of just slightly larger than a grain of rice that we inject into them with a little syringe. So if we recapture them again, we can look at how much they've grown since the last time we've captured them. And then once they get to be a certain size, then we put what's called a Carlin tag in them, which is the external tag that you can see when you're fishing. It's a yellow kind of dangler tag off their dorsal fin. So if we did detect a pit tag on this one, we'd write down the tag number, and then we would add that we put a Carlin on it because it was over 600 millimeters. So it's big enough. The reason why we wait till they're 600 millimeters is just you don't want them when they're smaller to have this hindrance that would limit their ability to swim.
We're gonna take this leading fin spine. This is a way to age the sturgeon. Just a slight clip. and it pulls right off.
So we use a low-speed saw, like a diamond blade saw that spins fairly slow, and you can cut a little slice off the end of it, and then you can age it like a tree. There's rings on it. The sturgeon fishing on the Rainy River is pretty good. I mean, we've met a lot of our recovery goals for sturgeon population in the river. The last goal of our recovery plan is to see an 80-incher, and a lot of us kind of debated whether it's out there, and if it's not out there, it probably will be soon.
Yeah.
But I would think that there's got to be one. We do yearly monitoring, netting for tagging fish and stuff, and we're seeing pretty diverse year classes. That was one of the things in our recovery goals, is having several year classes, and that's one of the things we get from taking our age structures, that was fin raises. We can determine the years that the fish were born, and then we can kind of backlog it. So we've seen several year classes, and that's kind of what we've done with our survey this year with these juveniles, is just kind of continuing that, making sure we're still seeing spawning occurring, recruitment happening in the population.
Sauger, 234, 40. So we're going to be pulling the otoliths out of the sauger, which is a structure similar to like an ear bone if you compare it to humans, and that's the way that you can get the age from these fish.
So this would be part of that Rainy River evaluation I was talking about earlier. We wouldn't normally do this if we were just looking at sturgeon, but since we're already setting nets, it makes sense for us to
utilize some of the bycatch that we're getting.
Yep.
Walleye, 282, male, immature. So the testes or the ovaries are kind of what you look for, and it's going to be really small. But this is a undeveloped testy basically. Super skinny, small, red, and then the females will be a little more fleshy, a little bit larger at this size, and then clearly when they're mature, the ovaries will be full of eggs.
Now that we went out and collected all the different aging structures and stuff, so we'll go back and we can look at each site, how many fish we caught at each site. We can compare that to historical catches in that river section. We can get ages off those fish that we took a fin ray from, so we can go back and look when those fish were born. We can look at river conditions when they were born to see, are there thresholds that sturgeon need as far as flow or river level to have a successful spawning year. For the walleye and sauger, we can look at ages on those as well with the otoliths that we took, and we can look at the amount of growth that they've had in the river. We can look at length at age. So 2-year-old fish, how long are they in the river compared to the lake? Are there differences there? Is it the same population? Along with the sturgeon too, we can look at now that we have an age and a length for them, when we capture them, if they get recaptured again down the line, we can look at how much it's grown. So another way we research these fish is we have what's called acoustic transmitters in these adult fish. And basically what those do is they send out a coded ping, and we have receivers intermittently throughout the river. As a fish swims by one of these receivers, the receivers are listening for those pings, and when it sends it out, it can recognize that sequence of pings. It'll have an ID number associated with that fish, so we can tell when a fish swims past a certain receiver. And then we have this box here too that allows us to basically put in what's called a hydrophone into the water, which can also listen for those signals. We can kind of track fish individually as they move throughout the river system, and we have receivers out on Lake of the Woods as well right now too, so we can kind of track them all the way from International Falls Dam all the way down the Rainy River into the lake. We don't have a whole lot of data on juvenile fish, so kind of understanding where they're hanging out throughout the year and what kind of habitat they prefer throughout the year. And then for the adults, we know some spawning areas. We're kind of looking to see, are there other spawning areas that they're using? And then looking at like when they're spawning, are they going from site to site? The timing of when they move up for spawning in the springtime and when they leave. If they leave right after spawning, where do they go? Do they go, you know, all the way to the lake? Do they just kind of coast down? Just kind of understanding overall what are they doing on a year-to-year basis, kind of at different stages of their life.
That should code
That's a fish.
for sure.
39542.
Fish 39542 was 19.1 inches when it was originally tagged on August 14th of 2024 near the Vitus boat ramp. And including today, it was detected 3 more times near Badet in August of 2025.
We had one fish that, you know, went from the Big Falls area all the way down out into like the woods in just a couple days. So, and we've had some fish that prefer to stay in the river. They haven't really left the river, or they hang out kind of by 4 Mile Bay down by the lake. Some fish move a lot and some fish don't move a lot. And we're looking at, do they come up the same river every year? Are they Rainy River fish only coming up the Rainy, or are they straying? We don't have a whole lot of data on juvenile sturgeon, so that's why us being able to tag some of these younger fish and seeing where they hang out before do they go to the lake right away? Are they hanging out in the river for a couple years until they get big enough? Just getting an idea of where those are hanging out. It seems like, just from our preliminary data, a lot of them hang out in the river and for the first couple years before they start moving out into the lake environment. But there's obviously fish that move more than others.
It's research like this that builds a world-class fishery, and we have one right here for sturgeon on the Rainy River.
Funding for Prairie Sportsman is provided by the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources. By Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farm, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota. On the web at shalomhillfarm.org. And by the Friends of Prairie Sportsman. To become a friend of Prairie Sportsman, visit pioneer.org/Prairie Sportsman.